Good morning, everyone. Today is the 16th of April. This is Brad Matheny, and this is the Plan Your Trade video for the 16th of April, Wednesday. Today, we are looking at a blank pattern. Now, I looked this up at the request of everyone, this one and the next one, and these patterns, nothing like this pattern has showed up in the last 11 plus years of day trading or daily price data. So I have no reference of this pattern going back 11 plus years of data. That means that this is a very unusual pattern. We'll see what happens today. I'll try to make a trend decision, a deciding decision of what this actually looks like today. And again, with the one tomorrow, none of these have really shown up. And if I don't have any reference points, two or three at least reference points of what they are, it's very hard to determine what could happen. Now, I will tell you that today's pattern has a unique um, criteria to it. So, going back, I have multiple inside the lookup table. I have multiple criteria that I look up. It's not just one thing. Obviously, these patterns, like I tell everyone, they're about 70 to 80% accurate most of the time. Last week was perfect. This week, we're getting a little bit of consolidation in the market. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. But there's multiple reference points in terms of how this is identified. And one of the reference points points to moderately extreme volatility, possible major topping, bottoming type of formation setting up. Given my analysis of the markets and what we're looking at, we have about 3 or 4 days here, pretty much between the 15th and the 18th, that is showing, fairly large uh, capacity for a major top or a bottom type of a setup. And what I'm going to tell you is that this makes a lot of sense that we would be looking at this from a standpoint of rolling through this trend. This is my primary chart. I can come back over here and do it on a secondary chart. We would be rolling through, let me move this, a cycle that could present a fairly strong major bottom. In fact, let me go over here to weekly and just show you that, looking at this from a standpoint of weekly, we've got this deep low here, this ultimate low. It could be very easy to determine that we're setting up a big broad low right here, down in this 480 area. And we could be setting up a fairly large topping pattern right up in this 550, 560 area. So, given the fact that we're rolling through this extremely volatile time frame, it would make sense that we are essentially trapping ourselves in this consolidation range, which is what I've been telling you for the last, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 weeks, that we're going to break down into consolidation. Again, getting this blank pattern and getting this rolling type of a trend to me leads me to think that we're going to still get moderate melt up here in the markets, potentially trying to move back up to the 548, 550 area, and then rolling down here into this May low. So, my analysis really is not changing. What we're looking at here, again, these are all my markings for the previous excess phase peak patterns. Get rid of some of these. We're really looking at a continuation of kind of trending here. This is a basing pattern setting up that has yet to actually move to the upside. I think it's holding up fairly well here, and how the markets have moved off of this move. We had a higher move on Monday. We've had a little consolidation. Wouldn't be surprised to see us get a nice little move today or tomorrow. Again, there's no mapping of this pattern. I'm going back to daily here. There's no mapping of this pattern yet. I'm looking at a fairly volatile move. We do have a little bit of a evening star type formation here, which is setting up for a potential roll to the downside. Markets are off about 3/4 of a point right now. I would not be surprised to see the markets essentially stay in this semi-elevated range right here, 430 to say 435, trying to build a support for a little bit of a rally up into this area. We still have, into next week to see this potential move up near 550, trying to fill this gap. So we'll see what happens today. Again, I wish I could tell you that this was a X or a Y or a Z pattern, but there's literally no reference going back 11 years. And again, I could go back further, but if we don't have a reference in 11 years going back to 2013, 2014, then this is a pretty rare pattern. And same thing here. This should be a pretty rare pattern on the 17th. Just doesn't show up that often. So we'll see what it looks like today. Okay, so now QQQ, again, same type of scenario. We're looking at a potential for a moderate move to the upside. You can see here we've got no data on this. We've essentially closed this window. So we're looking at, again, closing this window here. We've closed this gap here. And what we're looking at again is that if the analysis is correct, we're looking at that major topping right here and major bottoming down here. And what we would be looking at is essentially a consolidation range, as I've told you before, between this area and this area. Likely trying to move upward in this channel up into this area to consolidate out here before we move down into that May low. So that's really the outline of what I think is going to happen. And this is going to set up a very nice move here with this breakdown. This sets up a big excess phase peak pattern, which will flag downward like this, potentially then extending either downward and invalidating, meaning we come down here into lower lows and invalidate, or we move through a consolidation phase either into this area before we struggle to get up or into this area before we roll back down. So understand that this, again, I did a video about it yesterday and the day before. We're getting into these layered excess phase peak patterns. And this normally prompts fairly strong consolidation with potentially an expanding wedge. When you consider what an expanding wedge is, we could have hypothetically a rolling top kind of from this area like this, or from this area like this, into an expanding megaphone type of a pattern, rolling through these cycles and expanded consolidation before we break out of it. What I really do believe is likely to happen, though, is sideways consolidation carrying all the way out into the June, July low, where we essentially see this type of activity into the July low, rolling up, and then into the October low. So that gives you a pretty good example of kind of where we're at. Okay. Really moving into this sideways move. So we will move to gold and silver. Gold and silver are ripping. I've been telling you about this for a while. Gold and silver made a big move overnight, almost $85, $90 overnight. The gold and silver pattern is an inside breakaway. We're already past that. And, the rally. So what happens is a lot of times the markets will enter a period, especially after extreme volatility, where they need to kind of settle and think of it as, an explosive cycle moving into a congestion cycle. And that's kind of what happened here with gold and silver. We had that big rally. These are hourly. I mentioned this setup yesterday to my subscribers. And again, subscribers are different than the free videos over here on YouTube or on TradingView. But again, I try to provide the best research I can for you. Nothing changes. Basically, I'm here to try to help you and try to help you identify the best setups. But we have this beautiful consolidation pattern with an A, B, C, D, E move to the upside. I mentioned the 3,300 level and 33 level. Silver's dancing right around that 33 level right now. Gold is already above it. We're likely going to get some follow through here. China is acquiring gold. I read an article yesterday that China may price gold at 5,300 internally within its country to help stabilize the economy. Essentially, what they're trying to do is reprice their gold holdings, saying that we have X many tons of gold, and we think it's worth 5,300, so we're going to declare it on our books as a 5,300 value, meaning that's probably the number that the world is going to start looking at here. We come over here to daily. We're basically saying that China is saying that gold is valued up at 5,300 and change right up here. And that is going to be probably, if they do that and if they set that in everyone's mind, that means that gold is going to move from 3,300 to maybe 5,000, 5,100 very aggressively. Now, what's really kind of cool about this is that when you come over here and you look at gold based on my charts, assuming this has it, yep, good, good, good. This is daily. You will see that my excess phase peak pattern, that my gold cycles, my setup patterns here, my breakaway patterns here, and my expansion patterns here had gold moving up to 47, 4,800 potentially to the upside. The 5,300 area that China is talking about is right up in this area. Not really too far above my upward expected range. And as I mentioned to you, I think we're getting into a very solid, explosive move here that's going to just really rally right on up here through, April, May, June, and probably peaking somewhere over here, maybe way up over here before July. So we've got a long way to go in metals. I mean, we have got literally from where we're at down here at 3,300. We've got potentially a 1,400, 1,500 move up to my level, a $1,900 move up to Chinese levels within the next, 60, 70, 80 days. So it's a huge move. I mean, I can't tell you. Gold is going to make a big breakout here. I can't say enough. Pay attention to gold. As I mentioned here, 3.5 months by a rally, 1,000 points, 700 to 1,000 points before the end of April. Looks like I did that back over here. So how much have we run since April? So from this low up to 3,300, we've run 700 points. Okay. So there we are. It's basically going to move another probably 400 points before the end of April. And we're going to target really this 4,800, 4,900 level. In my opinion, this is the next big target range right up in here. Okay. And this is the upper area of my rectangle, which is right there. That's where I thought gold would go in this next move. Now, after this, it goes even more parabolic. But what's going to happen here is that we are going to move into a consolidation phase once we hit that peak. So, in theory, folks, for gold, if we rally up into this area, hypothetically, and roll back down, we're going to move into a consolidation phase, which will eventually break out and rally to the upside. So gold and silver, we're looking at the inside breakaway pattern in counter trend mode. This could be a move that really plays out as a pullback, a moderate pullback today, we're seeing really big trending right now in gold and silver. I'll come back over here and again play this out. So you see how we're getting this big rally to the upside here? We could potentially, again, see this move up into a moderate counter trend mode. So we could see it rally up into a bit of a counter trend pullback, rally up into a bit of a counter trend pullback. So be aware that, we're above the 3,300 level. I think we're going to get a pause at this level, maybe for a day or two. I wouldn't keep active, minimize. I would not be surprised to see gold continue to rip higher. But once we've gotten up above this level, we really have to see what happens with momentum. This is a big psychological level. We could pause out here before we get another big move. Just FYI. And we'll come over here finally to Bitcoin. And okay, there's the chart I was working with yesterday. For some reason, I don't know why, maybe I cleared it. I lost all my other drawings, but that's fine. Keep it clean. We're rolling over a little bit with Bitcoin. The fear move in gold is not translating into Bitcoin. Bitcoin is more aligned to the NQ generally. And what we're seeing here, guys, is that rollover spiking trend. I'm looking for that next downward trend. So in reality here, we have the consolidation range. I've talked to you about this for months. We're looking like we're going to roll down into this area, possibly down into this lower channel right down here. 63,000, 60,000, somewhere in that area is the next move. That's going to be about a $20 to $23,000 decline in Bitcoin. And again, I believe this consolidation range it's smaller than the flag range right here. So I believe the actual breakdown could take place as a deep aggressive low down in this $48,000 area, but we'll see if it plays out like that or not. So right now, I'm just kind of cautiously watching Bitcoin to make a move to the downside, and that could be related to the markets, the global markets as well, reacting to some fear, which could send gold and silver even higher. If Bitcoin does not act as a hedge, gold and silver will make up. And right now, Bitcoin is not acting as a hedge. Gold and silver have rallied. Bitcoin has stayed consolidated and weakening. You're not seeing any big appreciative growth here in Bitcoin. Okay, so we'll come back over here to the SPY, and you can see we're off a little bit. We're off a little bit on the NASDAQ and the Dow Jones. Global markets are off just a little bit. Nothing really serious right now going on. Not looking for a massive rally, looking for a little melt up into this, like I said, this kind of April, spread it back out kind of up into this area here, like I talked about, into next week for 550, maybe 555, 560. That's what I'm looking for right now, setting up this top, because I do believe we're going to see this move up here, consolidation, and then a roll down into that May low back over here somewhere. So that's kind of what I'm looking for right now. A little bit of consolidated melt up into the 553, 554 area, rolling downward around the 25th, 26th of April into this low, which will likely set up that May low down here around 500. Okay, guys, that's it for now. Go get some. Hopefully, you got some with gold. Love to hear your comments. If you've been following me on gold and nailed it today, send me a comment.